Good morning, everybody. I am Dr. Nitin Doshi, Professor in Neurology with teaching experience of 25 years, working as consultant neurosurgeon at Panvel. Today we will see the capsular perforation, which is a complication which everybody experiences in his life one day or the other. So we'll discuss the questions which are asked in MCH or DNB urology. Now, capsular perforation is one of the complication which is intra-op complication of TURP, and in theory a question is asked about the intra-op complications of TURP. So one of that is capsular perforation, while other important ones are the TUR syndrome, primary hemorrhage, bladder perforation. Now the questions which are asked: what is prostatic surgical capsule? The questions which will be asked will be as per they are of importance, or when the examiner starts discussing about the TURP procedure will go accordingly. The surgical capsule is actually a peripheral boundary or limit of resection in TURP and is formed due to the compression of the peripheral zone by the diffuse enlargement of the transition zone. The next question which can be asked: in order to prevent injury to prostatic capsule, it is important to identify and appreciate the appearance of prostatic capsule. So doctor, describe the appearance of prostatic capsule. So the prostatic capsule is meshwork or network like closely interwoven or interlacing bundle of smooth muscle fibers giving a homogeneous appearance. Next question: in TURP, which technique is useful in identifying peripheral boundary of resection, that is exposure of prostatic capsule? In TURP, Nesbitt's making marking trench technique by single cut technique is useful in exposure of the capsule, that is peripheral boundary of resection. Next question: in TURP, how Nesbitt's making marking trench technique is useful in exposure of capsule? Answer is, sir, in Nesbitt's principle of making marking trench technique by single cut technique, one goes layer by layer, that is take multiple cuts and goes layer by layer from superficial to deep till one exposes the capsule, and thus capsule is exposed segment by segment, and thus it is helpful in the exposure of the capsule. Doctor, during resection, what gives indication that one is approaching close to surgical capsule? Answer: sir, appearance of prostatic calculi and or undulating movement of the prostatic capsule gives me indication that I am approaching close to surgical capsule. Next question: doctor, what are prostatic calculi? Answer: sir, prostatic calculi are multiple spherical yellowish brown structures formed due to compression and hence solidification of prostatic secretion or concretion present in the outermost part of the transition zone. Next question: doctor, how appearance of prostatic calculi during TURP indicate closeness to surgical prostatic capsule? Answer: sir, prostatic calculi are formed due to compression and hence solidification of prostatic secretion or concretion present in the outermost part of the transition zone, while surgical capsule is formed due to compression of peripheral zone by diffuse enlargement of the transition zone. And so the prostatic calculi are actually present at the boundary of the surgical capsule, and thus appearance of prostatic calculi gives an important signal or indication or alarm to the resectionist that you are approaching to the surgical capsule, and one has to stop the resection at that level so as to prevent injury to the prostatic capsule. Next question. What is the commonest site of prostatic calculi? The most common site of finding prostatic calculi is between 4 and 8 o'clock position, and that too more in the apical region. Next question. What is undulating movement of prostatic capsule? Then answer. Sir, when I start progressing more and more deeper and start coming closer to the capsule, once I come close to the capsule during removal of residual adenoma by the prostatic capsule, I may notice a sudden inward movement of the capsule towards the cutting loop, and this sudden inward movement of the prostatic capsule towards cutting loop is called as undulating movement of prostatic capsule. Doctor, what is this actually undulating movement of prostatic capsule? This undulating movement of prostatic capsule is actually a mass movement secondary to the pelvic floor contraction, secondary to the electrical stimulation. Doctor, if you notice undulating movement of prostatic capsule, what you should do immediately and why? Sir, if I notice undulating movement of prostatic capsule during TRP, immediately I should stop the cutting current by removal of my foot from the foot pad. This is because if I don't stop instantly, then it will take a big slice of the capsule, resulting into major capsular perforation. Doctor, how can you prevent undulating movement of prostatic capsule? Sir, as I start progressing the resection and going more and more deeper, that is coming closer to the capsule, two things I can do. One, temporarily I will reduce the output of cautery, and second, change the new loop which is thicker and change from new to old which is used, so it is thinner, so the chance of undulating movement will be reduced. Doctor, what is threatened capsular perforation? While exposing a capsule or during deep resection, accidentally if the superficial part of the capsule is sliced, then normally the capsule, which is meshwork or network of closely interwoven smooth muscle bundle fibers, here they appear as diverging, widely separated, thinner fibers. And if the cut goes still slightly deeper, then one gets the appearance of the torn shredded piece of cloth with black holes in it, which is classically described as cobweb appearance, that is spider's web. Doctor, what is the significance of this cobweb appearance? The cobweb appearance signifies one, that is, it is a significant attenuation of the capsule through which one can see periprostatic fat. Second, because of this thinning, there will be seepage of the irrigation fluid into periprostatic and perivesical tissue spaces. Third, that it is so much it's weakened and attenuated that it can result into a free frank perforation. So it is a forerunner of the free frank prostatic capsular perforation. Also, one has to remember that whenever we get such appearance, it is a signal for the resectionist to stop the resection immediately. Doctor, the consequences and the sequelae of the threatened perforation and covered perforation are similarly. If you diagnose the threatened perforation or covered perforation, what will you do? Answer, sir, as soon as I diagnose that there is a threatened perforation or covered perforation, I will try to terminate the procedure as early as possible. I will try to achieve the best possible hemostasis in short possible time. Third, in order to reduce the amount of extravasation, I will do certain things. One, I will do the frequent emptying of the bladder so as to reduce the over distension of bladder causing raised intravesical pressure, which will cause more extravasation of fluid. Second, I will reduce the hydrostatic pressure in the irrigation tubing by decreasing the rate of irrigation and height of irrigation. And if there are TR chips or the blood clots in the bladder, To empty them, I will empty without violent pumping, one. And second, I will change from Elix evacuator to the Toomey syringe, because in case of the Elix evacuator, there is initially sudden increase in the intravesical pressure, and then the blood clots or TR chips are sucked in, and so this sudden increase in the intravesical pressure may force the irrigation fluid from the thinned attenuated capsule into periprostatic and perivesical space. Then through the resectoscope, since the capsule has become thinned, so as to prevent passage of the catheter in the false passage, I'll pass the glide wire and thread the three-way Foley's catheter properly into the bladder. Once the catheter is in the bladder, I will inflate the balloon and start the irrigation slowly, that too with a warm normal saline, so as to maintain the patency of the catheter, and observe the patient for any bradycardia, hypertension, any suprapubic fullness, any disorientation in time-space person. Next question. There are 4 different types of capsular perforation, namely threatened perforation, covered perforation, free perforation, and subtrigonal perforation. Whatever is the type of perforation, the clinical and it is clinically significant, its presentation is the same. So if suppose you experience that the person is having the such perforation, what will you do? The answer is similar to the covered perforation or the threatened perforation. Sir, as soon as I come to know that this clinically significant means there is a significant extravasation. Since there is clinical extravasation, so since I have got habit of emptying the bladder intermittently, even if I am using the Iglesia resectoscope, continuous resectoscope sheath, since I have got habit, then whenever I am emptying the bladder and palpating simultaneously suprapubic region, I will be able to find ill-defined irregular induration, and this ill-defined irregular indication will be the first indication, and I will be able to diagnose the capsular perforation early. Now here again the principles will be same. As soon as you come to know that there is a perforation, I will try to I will try to terminate the procedure as early as possible. Since there is more and more extravasation which is going on because of the subtrigonal perforation or the free perforation, there will be the patient will have a frank lower abdominal pain, patient will be having discomfort, there is increase in the suprapubic or hypogastric region distension, patient will have the what is called as the one may notice there is evacuation problem, because more and more fluid which is going inside is not returning back, and so one gets an apparent feeling of evacuation problem, and the anesthetist may give the hint that the patient is restless, agitated, anxiety, there is bradycardia, hypertension, yawning, suggestive of TR syndrome, and then you get the indication that the patient is having the any perforation, maybe the free perforation or subtrigonal perforation. So I will diagnose clinically by these findings of the TR syndrome as well as the hypogastric induration, lower abdominal pain, and the patient is having more and more hypogastric fullness, distension, discomfort. Now the next question which can be asked, what is the classical site of free prostatic perforation? The classic type or the site of the free prostatic perforation is commonly lateral aspect of vesicoprostatic junction, or it can be even the capsule proper. This capsule proper if it is attenuated. The next question can be asked, doctor, if there is a free capsular perforation, clinically, that is intraoperatively, how you get a feeling that you have developed a free capsular perforation? Sir, when there is a free capsular perforation, I may see a obvious hole at lateral aspect of vasicoprostatic junction. One. Second, there will be or it may be the proper capsular perforation, then also there is an obvious hole which is present. If I observe the inflow of the irrigation, I will see that there is a free flow of irrigation going through that obvious hole, and if I observe under vision the return of irrigation fluid, then I will see that the returning fluid is only small quantity and blood stain, which is responsible for irrigation fluid deficit or apparent filling of evacuation problem. Also, if there is a frank capsular perforation, just outside the capsule there are venous sinuses, and if they are torn, then there is the appearance of profuse bleeding. So clinically I will diagnose the free capsular perforation by this appearance. The next question can be asked, doctor, if you get the free capsular perforation, what clinical signs you will diagnose that the patient is having free capsular perforation? One, you will say that during this free capsular perforation, even if the patient is under spinal, at the time of perforation there will be lower abdominal pain. As we have seen, there will be irrigation fluid deficit. Third, there will be apparent evacuation problem. Fourth, circulatory overload. So there will be maybe chest pain, there will be presence of choking sensation in the chest and throat. Patient will have bradycardia, hypertension, and if the patient, since I am having the habit of emptying the bladder frequently, even if I am using the Iglesia resectoscope sheath, I will palpate irregular, ill-defined induration in suprapubic region due to extravasation. Now, next question, doctor, if you realize that there is a major capsular perforation, what steps you will carry out? The principles of this are almost similar, like covered perforation or the threatened perforation. That is, sir, I will try to terminate the procedure as early as possible. Second, I will try to achieve the hemostasis in short time. Third, in order to reduce the amount of extravasation, I will empty the bladder frequently so as to reduce the intravesical pressure. To reduce the hydrostatic pressure in the tubing, I will reduce the rate and height of irrigation, and whatever the TUR chips and the blood clots which are present, I will empty them without violent pumping, and I will use the Toomey syringe rather than Elix evacuator. Very important is the proper catheterization, and so through the resectoscope I will pass a glide wire. There is capsular perforation, so there is always a chance of presence of false passage, and through that the catheter may pass. So I will pass a glide wire through the resectoscope sheath. After removal of the resectoscope sheath, with adequate lubrication, I will thread the three-way Foley's catheter. Once the catheter has reached in the bladder, I will inflate the balloon and start the irrigation slowly with warm saline, and that irrigation is to maintain the patency. And I will always observe the patient in the OT itself. And since there is a capsular perforation and if associated suspicion of TUR syndrome, I will ask the anesthetist to collect the blood for hyponatremia, and if associated major torn sinuses, then blood for HBPCV. And if during observation, I will see for the pulse for bradycardia, BP for hypertension, orientation in time-space person, any hypogastric fullness, distension, any yawning, any signs of CNS manifestation. If there is any progression of the symptoms of bradycardia, hypertension, restlessness, agitation, then I will inform OT sister, anesthetist as well as patient's relative that I will go ahead with the emergency exploration in the benefit of the patient by taking a small, quick suprapubic incision so as to drain this paraprostatic and paravesical space by insertion of tube drain. Now, next question which is asked, The subtrigonal perforation can occur either during actual process of TRP or even before starting actual TRP, that is at the time of instrumentation. So, doctor, you have developed subtrigonal perforation at the time of instrumentation. Can you tell how it has developed? Normally in the urethra there are two natural curvatures. Sometimes in addition there may be third natural curvature, and this third natural curvature is due to presence of bladder neck elevation, significant bladder neck elevation and protuberant median lobe. Now whenever this third natural elevation or the curvature is present, that time while insertion of rigid and the straight instrument like cystoscope sheath or the resectoscope sheath, one has to depress or lower the outer end of the sheath much more than the normal. Because of this further depression, the inner vesical end of the cystoscope sheath or resectoscope sheath gets elevated so that one can pass without injuring into the bladder. If this particular principle is not followed and the rigid straight instrument is passed straight away in presence of the median lobe or significant bladder neck elevation, then there will be penetration under the trigone resulting into subtrigonal perforation. Doctor, what are the two other natural curvatures of urethra? The other two natural curvatures of urethra are present. The distalmost is at penoscrotal junction, that is junction of the mobile penile urethra and the intrascrotal fixed urethra, and the second curvature is mid-bulbar capacious urethra and the proximal fixed membranous urethra. Doctor, in case of complete subtrigonal perforation, what will be the finding when you see through the scope? Now in case of complete subtrigonal perforation, the subtrigonal perforation is like a trauma, and in response to this trauma, the bundle of smooth muscle fibers which are encircling the bladder neck and forming the internal sphincter, they contract. That is contraction of the internal sphincter. Because of contraction of this internal sphincter, there is elevation of the bladder neck and bladder base. This results into a slit-like opening between the bladder base and the prostatic capsule. This slit-like opening is of varying length and depth, which is extending below the bladder neck and base and is lined by cobweb-like tissue. Doctor, in case of complete subtrigonal perforation, there is a chance that the resectoscope will slide under the trigone. Then what will you do? Sir, in case of complete subtrigonal perforation, if the scope slides under the trigone, the most important thing is that at any cost it should be withdrawn from the false passage and should be inserted back into the normal passage. And since there is a perforation, same principles, and that is the termination of the procedure as early as possible, achieving the hemostasis as fast as possible, reducing the degree of extravasation by preventing the overdistension of bladder, preventing the violent pumping while evacuating the TUR chips or blood clots, reducing the hydrostatic pressure by reducing the height and rate of irrigation, and most important is proper catheterization. And so if the resectoscope has entered into the bladder, then pass a glide wire and over which the 3-way 22 French Foley's catheter can be slided with after adequate lubrication. Doctor, suppose you are unable to replace back the resectoscope sheath from false passage back into the bladder, that is normal passage, what will you do? The answer will be, sir, since I am not able to replace back the rectoscope from false passage into the bladder, I will surely anticipate that it will be a very difficult catheterization because there is a false passage. This false passage is of varying length and depth, which is present below, underneath the bladder neck and base. So whenever I put a catheter, this will go invariably in the false passage. So as soon as I remove the receptoscope, I inject adequate amount of lubricating jelly, and once I start passing through this, once I get a feeling that it has passed the sphincter, external sphincter, I will give a rectal support. Because of the elevation, that is rectal support, the false passage which is present underneath the bladder base will be partly or completely obliterated, so the chance of passing the tip of the catheter in the false passage will be prevented, and I will continue this till the tip of the catheter goes into the bladder and I will inflate the balloon. So next question, doctor, suppose in case of diagnosed subtrigonal perforation, you are successful in catheterization after rectal support. What will you do? Then, since there is a subtrigonal perforation, so there will be some degree of extravasation. After putting the catheter, the bladder will be drained. But in spite of the bladder which is drained, suppose there is a persistent or progressive fullness or distension of the hypogastric or suprapubic region, and patient is gradually developing the signs and symptoms of the TR syndrome like restlessness in spite of being in the spinal anesthesia, abdominal pain, discomfort, distension, yawning, disorientation, then he is developing TR syndrome, and so I will inform the sister anesthetist as well as relative that in benefit of the patient, I will go ahead with the exploration by taking a small quick suprapubic incision so as to drain the paravesical and paraprostatic tissue spaces by insertion of tube drain. Next question, doctor, what will you do postoperatively in case of diagnosed case of subtrigonal perforation? Now suppose you have diagnosed subtrigonal perforation and patient is settling and you have not put the tube drain. There is a possibility that because of the absorption of this irrigation fluid from paraprostatic and paravesical tissue spaces, there may be development of TR syndrome, and so the patient has to be monitored. This is called a delayed TR syndrome, and so the patient has to be observed for delayed TR syndrome. And in case the patient has been inserted tube drain because patient was not settling intraoperatively, then once the patient is settled hemodynamically, the peristalsis has returned, then patient can be started on orally, patient can be mobilized. Once the tube drain stops functioning, the tube drain will be removed, and then the patient can be discharged on oral antibiotics. Then patient can be followed on OPD basis, and after 2 weeks the cystogram can be done under aseptic precaution to confirm that there is a proper healing of the subtrigonal perforation. And if I have not started the actual process of TRP, that is development of the subtrigonal perforation during instrumentation itself, I will plan the TRP after 4 weeks when whatever the injury has healed properly. The last question, doctor, so what is the significance of capsular perforation? Sir, depending upon the degree and type of perforation, there will be the amount of the extravasation of the irrigation fluid will be variable. So there will be variable degree of extravasation in paraprostatic and paravesical space. Due to absorption of this irrigation fluid from paraprostatic and paravesical space, there is a chance of development of immediate or delayed TR syndrome. Secondly, just outside the prostatic surgical capsule, there are presence of venous sinuses which are extremely thin walled, wide, voluminous, low pressure system. So there is a chance of injury to these venous sinuses because of prostatic capsular perforation. And so if there is torn venous sinuses, then being they are the voluminous, they are the source of profuse bleeding causing hypotension, and since they are extremely thin walled and they are capacious, voluminous, so the finding and controlling this becomes very difficult. Since they are low pressure, as soon as you increase the jet of the irrigation flow, the blood is washed away, so finding the vessel becomes difficult. Once you start controlling, because they are thin walled, the hole starts widening, and when you increase the rate of irrigation to find the site, the volume of huge volumes of irrigation fluid gets absorbed into the voluminous torn venous sinuses, resulting into sudden absorption of the irrigation fluid, thus precipitating TOR syndrome. And so the capsular perforation is important risk factor for TOR syndrome. So here we finish the capsular perforation. Next time we'll see the TOR syndrome, which is again an important question in theory as well as practical. Thank you very much.